The ledger model. How the universe writes its story, and ours. The future is always draft. What becomes real depends on what we, as individuals and as systems, choose to commit. The ledger model is more than a metaphor. It is a grammar, grounded in the way the universe converts possibility into history, from the simplest particle to the most complex mind. The boundary, where uncertainty begins. Imagine a single living cell, its delicate membrane keeping chaos at bay, filtering what comes in and what stays out. Or picture a digital checkout scanner, silent until a barcode passes beneath, waiting to transform possibility into a beep, a recorded sale. Or think of your own mind, hovering at the edge of a difficult decision, sorting what is known from the flood of what might happen next. Each of these is defined by a boundary. A boundary is where history ends and uncertainty begins. A place where a system, a cell, a mind, a business, a nation, meets what it cannot fully control or predict. At this edge, the present meets the future, and the real question is always, what will be written next? 4 primitives. The sequence beneath every choice. The ledger model offers 4 structural roles, simple, yet universally present whenever uncertainty must give way to fact. Draft is the set of possible next states. What could happen, but hasn't yet. In quantum physics, draft is a superposition, a particle that could go left or right. In life, it's your plans for tomorrow or the menu before you order. Draft is open, reversible, and cheap. Vote is the act or event that selects from the draft. Which path gets chosen, which options are left behind. In physics, this is measurement, the photon hitting the plate. In the supermarket, it's the moment you scan the item. In life, it's making the call, casting the ballot, saying yes or no. Ink is the irreversible cost of commitment, what you pay, lose, or spend to move from draft to ledger. In physics, this cost is literal. Every bit of information written creates heat, Landauer's principle, dispersing energy into the environment. In life, ink is time you'll never recover, trust spent, bridges burned, effort used up. Ledger is the outcome, what's now written, irrevocable, the constraint for every future draft. In science, this is the classical record, the click in the detector, the data logged. In organizations, it's the policy signed, the contract finalized, the product shipped. In your story, it's memory, consequence, the real shape of your days. This is not just abstraction. This is how nature, at every level, operates. The universe writes first. How science reveals the pattern. Why claim that the ledger model is more than a metaphor? Because the deepest laws of science reveal this grammar in action. Quantum mechanics. Before observation, a system is in draft, a haze of possibilities. Measurement is the vote. Uncertainty collapses. One result is chosen. That act generates ink, heat, and entropy, a cost that cannot be undone. The outcome is ledger, what's now real, what's been measured. Thermodynamics. Every irreversible process spends energy, generating heat, raising entropy, writing a cost into the physical ledger of the world. Evolution. Mutations and traits are drafts. Selection is the vote. Failed experiments are lost ink. The fossil and genetic record is the ledger. Everyday life. You scan a product. Draft becomes ledger. Your account is debited. The store records the sale. You send a message. Draft becomes commitment. A new reality exists between you and another. Every boundary, every system. The cycle repeats. Wherever you find a system with a boundary, you find this sequence. The cell's membrane. Each molecule outside is a draft. The decision to let one in is a vote. ATP spent is ink. What's inside becomes the cell's ledger, your mind. Each new idea or worry is a draft, choosing where to focus, what to believe, what to remember. These are votes, paid for with attention, energy, and risk. Ink. Your experience, memory, and knowledge are your ledger. A team or nation. Plans and proposals are drafts. Debate, negotiation, and action are votes. Resources and trust are ink. Policy, law, and shared history form the collective ledger. At every boundary, a system receives a draft of possibilities, casts votes, spends ink, and thickens its ledger. The new ledger becomes tomorrow's boundary. Ink is real. Cost cannot be dodged. One of the most profound truths embedded in this model is that ink is not just a metaphor. In physics, every bit written to memory, every measurement, every irreversible computation, all generate real heat. Landauer's principle tells us, information is physical, and every act of writing costs energy. In human life, the costs are just as real, even if harder to measure. The time invested in a failing project, the emotional energy spent defending a mistake, the bridges burned by a hasty word or decision. To act is to pay ink. To live is to recognize and respect the cost of commitment. The dual ledger, where suffering and wisdom begin. There's a deeper mechanic at work in every mind, every organization. The simulated ledger versus the physical ledger. The physical ledger is what actually happened, what was recorded, what is now a constraint. The simulated ledger is the internal story, the version you tell yourself, the narrative you replay, the organizational myth. Much of human error and suffering comes from a mismatch between the two. We rewrite our internal ledgers to avoid regret, protect our egos, or justify our actions, often at tremendous ink cost, fighting reality rather than facing it. Let's drop this out of abstraction and into the thrum of an ordinary evening. Picture this. It's after work. You're tired. The kitchen is a tangle, dishes piled, someone's shoes in the wrong spot, the toddler's toys underfoot, the clock ticking toward dinner. You say something, sharp, rushed, or just tired. Maybe you snap at your partner, or mutter about, "Nobody ever helps." In the heat of that moment, the vote happens. A word, a sigh, a slammed cabinet. Ink is spent, frustration hangs in the air. Later, you replay what happened. Your physical ledger says, you spoke sharply. Your partner's face fell, the room got colder. But your simulated ledger starts spinning. I was just tired. They're too sensitive anyway. It wasn't that bad. They should know I'm under pressure. If only they'd cleaned up, none of this would have happened. Here's where it gets costly. To protect yourself, you start rewriting the story, spending new ink on justification, maybe even letting small resentments harden into memory. A rift grows, not from the original mistake, but from the ongoing refusal to square the simulated ledger with what's actually written. But you know this feeling, don't you? That hollow ache when you realize you're fighting reality instead of facing it. The long half hour before you apologize, or the stubborn silence after bedtime. All the energy spent defending a narrative instead of paying the much smaller price, the ink, of honest repair. Living well at the boundary means this: auditing your own books. Having the courage, even when it stings, to say, I spoke badly, I'm sorry. Letting the simulated ledger catch up with the real one. Not by papering over pain, but by recognizing what was actually written and paying the ink required to set it right. In that act, something shifts. The draft for tomorrow opens wider. The ledger, now honest, becomes a real foundation for trust. You reclaim energy and intimacy otherwise wasted on self-justifying stories. This is not just theory. It's the anatomy of every hard conversation, every long marriage, every friendship tested by stress or time. Living with the ledger model. Practical advice. You don't need to be a physicist or philosopher to feel this. We've all lived the cost of rewriting our stories instead of repairing them. We've all felt the difference between the real apology and the sorry you're upset. The ledger perspective gives us language for something we know in our bones. The future is always draft. What happens next is open. What we commit, our words, our silences, our repairs, gets written, for better or worse. Every time we align what we tell ourselves with what actually happened, we pay ink, but we reclaim agency, honesty, and the chance to write better entries together. Living well at the boundary means having the courage to audit your own books, to bring the simulated ledger into alignment with the physical one, even when it's painful, even when it means admitting error. Paying new ink to update your model of the world. Pause long enough to see what's still draft, not yet real. Don't let urgency or fear push you into a vote before you've explored enough possibilities. Know what will be written when you commit and what it will cost. Ink is always spent. Weigh it honestly. Keep an honest ledger. Learn from what actually happened. Let your internal story catch up to the real record, even if the ink price of humility is high. The cycle that connects us all across quantum events, biological evolution, personal decisions, and organizational change, the same pattern appears wherever uncertainty hardens into history. Draft. What could happen? Vote. What gets chosen? Ink. What it costs. Ledger. What remains as memory, constraint, and opportunity. We rarely control the whole draft. We often do not see every vote, but we always participate in this cycle. With every word, policy, experiment, and habit, we decide where to spend our ink and what gets added to the shared ledger of what is now real. The promise of the ledger model is simple. See the cycle clearly, cast better votes, spend ink where it matters, and live more honestly at the ever-shifting boundary between the world we inherit and the world we are still writing.